we not know that AI is doing that with our candidate and new hire pools and bringing us people that looks like we've always hired into the organizations.
Good morning, Jess. How are you?
Hi, Christine. I'm good. It's nice to be back. How are you?
Good. We can talk about AI today, as we do every day, right? We're going to talk about AI in talent acquisition and specifically to our bias in the interview process, which I'm pretty excited about, right? Mm-hmm. So in case this is the first time you're joining us, we have the work architecture with people science. Thanks for joining us. We concentrate on talent acquisition. That's been my profession for a really long time, longer than I want to mention it. We're people science. We have a technology called Hiregate that's in there too. If you're in talent acquisition, stick around. We'd like to hear what you think. Okay. So we're pretty excited right now to share some information that we've shared a little bit before, right, Jess? About bias in the interview process. And we know there's a lot of lawsuits out there. We know this is top of mind for our customers. And our customers, by the way, are heads of talent acquisition, CHROs, CFOs, and founders of organizations. We help them learn how to create a well-oiled machine in recruiting. We also supplement them with recruitment process outsourcing. And we created a technology that augments the applicant tracking system called Hiregate that we've used across maybe 100 different organizations today. And consequently, they asked us to bring it to market. If you're interested, let us know. A lot of the data that we're going to talk about comes from this data collection that we do throughout the talent acquisition cycle that's right behind me. Okay. So bias, if this is a concern for you, great. If it isn't a concern for you, you're probably going to find yourself in a situation where it has to be a concern because it is, coming to surface. I think it's really ironic that the current administration, right, the current White House is really putting a kibosh on typical EEO, right, and diversity and inclusion. And ever since 2020, we've seen a lot of wonkiness back and forth on where it's going. I have always believed, I don't know about you, Jess, but I've always believed that work is where we make these changes.
Right.
Right. After you leave school, where are you ever going to meet somebody who doesn't look like you or isn't like you? Once you're out of college, where do you meet people who aren't just like you? And that's going to be at work. That's why I think groups like Out and Equal and the minority diversity supplier groups, they all can make bigger inroads than us, alone trying to do this. But the whole thing, in my opinion, having studied diversity for a really long time, is that the old methods don't work. Regulating it, making goals, setting different programs. And I hate to see it pushed aside. I hate to see diversity and inclusion pushed aside. But I like the fact that we're scrapping the old playbook because it is time for a new playbook. If we really want to move like millennials and Gen Z and Gen X still want to move the needle faster than we ever have before, then we really need to embrace some new things. And AI is going to help us do that kind of, sort of.
A little bit, yeah. Well, I think too, Christine, I think it's important to, as we're getting into this topic of unconscious bias, it's not necessarily meaning that someone's intending to discriminate. I think it's more of a psychology piece for us to dive into. It means our brains are naturally using shortcuts when making decisions in the interview process. So I think for TA, the risk in interviewing is that sometimes those shortcuts that our brain is naturally giving us can cause us to evaluate things with candidates like familiarity, their communication style, or personal comfort instead of someone's ability just to do the job. So as you're talking about AI, I don't think the goal isn't to remove human judgment from hiring. It's really to make that judgment more consistent, job related, focused on what the duties are and accountable for those making the decisions.
Which that's where the roadblock comes, right? It's talking of our brain. So we have our subconscious and our conscious brain. Our subconscious is just a big depository that supplies a lot of information. So if you want to compare that to technology, AI is a big depository that information is going into right now. And so I would like to share a case study that I saw at a LinkedIn conference a few years ago by Laszlo Bock when he was still the chief people officer at Google. And he cited a study from the University of Topeka that was done by Tricia Pritchard and Frank Banieri. I'm trying to find them to see if there's a consequence, if there's a consequential follow-up to this study, but this was really interesting to me. So what they did is they took what they called naive observers, and in this case, it was juniors in college, and had them witness interviews. So an interviewer conducted an interview, and then they turned the sound off, and they had these college juniors watching the interview. And then they asked them who they thought was hired, and then they compared the answers. The match point, right? So at what point, and I'm going to throw this out to the audience and just, do this in your head. How long do you think they had these naive observers watch this video or this live interview without sound and then made decisions that correlated with the interview process, the interviewer? It was 10 seconds. Not a minute, not 30. So does that mean that if I spend 30 minutes interviewing somebody, and that's really what, so they had interviewers, trained professional interviewers, interview somebody for 30 minutes, and then they had the naive observer work. And after 10 seconds, they were able to make the exact same kind of decisions. Like, why do we have jobs? Just a bunch of people. But this is really evidence of bias. And here's what we found. Watching the interview, you could see the interaction between the individuals. And it kind of goes like this. Fella comes in for an interview. He's a little rushed. He says, I'm sorry I'm late. I, take the train, and public transportation is something I believe in, but I'm glad I'm here now. So let's say the interviewer is also a fan of public transportation. Our subconscious will automatically make an association. I like this guy. I like mass transit. He likes mass transit. He even used it for an interview when I could put him in. I mean, now I'm starting to create a hypothesis. I like him. He's a lot like what I want. My conscious mind doesn't know this. My conscious mind just feels good, right? But my unconscious mind is supplying more and more information to make me read you in the interview process. And that's what our naive observers are working. And it can go in the opposite direction, right? Somebody comes in, they remind you of someone that you're not really fond of, and all of a sudden you start to rule them out. So the first part in the education of bias, and I believe the first part in teaching people how to interview, is understanding that we have these biases. Because once you acknowledge it, then you're able to challenge yourself in that process. Did I create hypothesis? Am I reading in? Am I reading out? So that's one good way to do it. You can find the actual snippet on our website. Where is that, Jess? Is it on and on YouTube of Laszlo Bock from a few years ago? And I promise that we'll do a follow-up to this to see if we can get you more information since that was created, which was like back in like 2012 to 2014. Cool. So on that note, how does AI fit into the interview process? And, if you've been following us, one of the things we keep saying is, if you're looking to bring AI into your tech stack, which you should be, right? Become the influencer. And when we look at being a work architect as compared to I fill jobs, as saying this is how they happen, it's really critical to know who the suppliers in AI are, because they're teaching and they're supplying data to AI that's empowering it to make these decisions. Right now, 40% of the data that AI is pulling on, about approximately 40% is coming from Reddit. So logically, we look at what is the demographic of Reddit. And by the way, when I heard that like a year ago, I became like an avid Reddit user, and I wasn't before. And probably the reason I wasn't is here's the demographic. So 40% of AI coming from Reddit. It's predominantly male, 60 to 63% of users are male, and that's globally. And then 36 to 39 are identifying as female. So a lot more men. Most of the upvotes, by the way, on Reddit, you do an upvote or a downvote. Most of the upvotes, 60% of them come from women. I mean, this is all starting to sound stereotypical too. The age ranges here too, it's mostly Gen Z and millennials. So it's a newer market, but thinking in terms of, so I've got people that are predominantly male and women, millennial, women at only 30 some percent, and then Gen Z and millennials. So these are the people that are providing information. Let's look at their ages, right? So 44% are 18 to 29 years old. And 31% are 30 to 49 years old. So these are the people that 40% of AI is copying. So if you're an early adopter, you want the influence. You want your organization to influence what that AI is bringing. In fact, this is a case that I've seen several CHROs make when they say, instead of continuing partnerships and expanding with these large enterprise systems, they're looking at the smaller suppliers where they can influence, and many of them are creating their internal tech stack so they can create this AI that's empowered with their own company culture even further. Have you seen that with some of our customers yet, Jess?
Yes, I have. And I've seen a lot of, organizations, TA teams use AI to, again, create that consistency. So support either their scheduling, helping them write structured interview questions, organizing interview notes. But again, it's always important to not assume that AI is neutral. I mean, obviously, we all hear about the laws the EEOC is trying to put in place to avoid discrimination from these automated tools. And I think technology and AI can help standardize the process, absolutely. But important, keep aware it can also scale any assumptions that are already built into your current process. So you're just adding a tool onto something that's already existing. And if your current interview process allows for unconscious bias in some way, and you're not monitoring that and changing the workflow or re-engineering it, the tool will just amplify what's already there. So I think organizations, when they're looking to put in AI into their interview process, really having a core understanding of what information their AI tool is evaluating for them, how recommendations are generated. So Christine, your reference to AI or Reddit having 40% of the power in there is important to keep in mind. Whether accommodations are available for candidates with those AI tools, and if the results are different across different candidate groups that you're interviewing for. So a candidate group for an hourly role versus a candidate group for an executive position, how is AI deciphering those two? And then always keeping in mind where human review and accountability really need to remain necessary in that process. So I've seen organizations do it well, but I've also seen organizations just throw a tool on top of something and then it's amplifying what was wrong in the first place.
Well, I can tell from some of the audits I've been a part of in the last year and a half, there's a lot of that going on. Mm-hmm. The good news is many of the AI, well, I shouldn't say many, but so every other Tuesday I sit down with our director of technology and we go over new tools that are introduced. And those come to us, by the way, through our recruiters, through other people in our organization and say, hey, I heard about this, or somebody pitched this to me, I got an email about it. So we created this big directory of technology because we have a technology and we partner and do some plugins. So you can see why, we're focused on it. But I'm going to say, like this time last year, 90% of the tools that we looked at didn't even work. They weren't even worth bringing to the tech stack. So we would start like a demo, and then our team would say, look, 5 minutes in, it doesn't even work yet. It's not there yet, right? It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, or a good idea, but not there. Now I'm going to say 70% don't do what they set out to do yet, but they're on the target to do that. So why do we continue exploring and looking at these things? Because I've seen one piece of software save a company almost $2 million. And the cost of that was about $20,000 a year. I mean, you can't make up the degree of ROI that kicks in when you apply AI as compared to your current process, broken or not, right? I'm hoping that what we will all do is take an even closer look at what we're doing now because of the spotlight and because of the accountability and responsibility that our thoughts and our directions and our company cultures are forming these AI tools. Interesting fact, too, is I guess it's 2 years ago, we did our first presentation about AI in HR, and there had just been, I think it was CBS did a report, and we showed a clip of that, of asking AI, show me a fast food worker. And it showed a minority woman and a minority man, young people behind the counter. Then they asked it, show me a picture of a powerful leader. And it showed a white male in their late 50s, early 60s. I just did the same thing today with ChatGPT. And it showed me a woman with a hairstyle just like mine as the CEO, which is my title. So not only is it biased with other people's information, right? Reddit and all the other sources it uses, but at the same time, now it's saying, oh, I know Christine. She uses ChatGPT all the time. I'm going to customize my results to what she would think. Interesting.
Right. And for hiring, that to me, that seems a little scary, right? Like, how do we know where the AI stops and is no longer taking control? So as your AI tool, Christine, got to know you better and gave you a more tailored response today with someone that looked more like you, how do we not know that AI is doing that with our candidate and new hire pools and bringing us people that looks like we've always hired into the organization? So I think there needs to be a gatekeeper there, governance somehow. And those are the things that are keeping me up at night. So interesting topic indeed.
Well, yeah. And it's something we're working on, right? Creating governance that we can share with our population, because it's that important.
Mm-hmm.
And, using AI to audit AI is not a bad idea either. I think when we tried to do this years ago, it was just too cumbersome. You couldn't add more to the stack. We still had a lot of education. People come further. So I've got a lot of hope about AI helping us, put the spotlight on our own biases, which is the first step in changing them, right? And creating a more diverse world. And second, just speeding it up. So making it, much more cost effective, right? Which is always the name of the game in the end. Okay. So hope you enjoyed this. We're here. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Anything to add, Jess?
No, just looking forward to these further conversations. Things are moving so quickly, so stay tuned with us.
Absolutely. See you again soon.